Christine Persichetti, the president, the Pope, and a phone call. Definitely doesn't happen every day, but on Sunday, Biden and Francis discussed the Holy Land in a rare 20-minute conversation. And as the leaders discussed peace, a Queen's Church prayed for it. Parishioners from Our Lady of Mercy formed a living rosary on Sunday. Currents News' Katie Vasquez has the story from Forest Hills.
Praying out loud for a better world, starting with the Holy Land.
We hope that peace will be restored to the very area that Jesus himself preached in, walked in, taught in. So that was one of our intentions.
Dozens of children and adults formed a living rosary outside Our Lady of Mercy Church on Sunday.
When war broke out in the Holy Land, we said, what a perfect tribute to Our Lady to pray for her sons and daughters in the Holy Land.
The war is 5,000 miles away, but it's on the minds of many in Forest Hills.
In the neighborhood where we have many Jewish brothers and sisters to pray for peace in Israel, that the hostages be returned unharmed.
A mostly important prayer for children, by children, that history doesn't keep repeating.
It's really important because, if you have more peace in the world, maybe the world would be a little bit more better and more safe.
It stops a lot of conflict and people mostly hurting each other, killing each other, so that none of that happens.
A rosary that will continue until the fighting ends. In Forest Hills, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
The entire Diocese of Brooklyn will soon pray for peace. Pope Francis has called on Catholics to pray and fast on October 27th. And Brooklyn Bishop Robert Brennan hopes it has a ripple effect.
It's a messy world we live in, and I think we have to do what we can as people to pray so that we can be united in prayer. But the other thing is we have to work for peace. Our circle of influence might be kind of small. I can't change the world, but when I'm transformed in a prayer for peace, hopefully that will catch on. That will catch on beyond that, and that will continue to catch on. Isn't that the way Jesus worked? He worked by transforming individual lives bit by bit and then sending those people out as his messengers. It sounds impossible, but it's actually more effective than you think.
The Diocese of Brooklyn is working with the Archdiocese of New York and the Commission of Religious Leaders to increase interfaith collaboration. So Friday, October 27th, Holy Hour will begin at 11 o'clock at the Cathedral Basilica of St. James. Noon Mass will follow. It is open to the public, but if you can't make it, you can watch it live right here on Net TV. One church in the Holy Land will especially need those prayers. According to Caritas Jerusalem, St. Porphyrios Greek Orthodox Church collapsed after an Israeli airstrike. Palestinian officials say 18 were killed at the complex, where hundreds were taking shelter, including this Caritas worker who was killed along with her husband and their infant daughter. Thousands of Catholics from all over New York State took part in a Eucharistic Congress over the weekend. The first of its kind event happened at the National Shrine of the North American Martyrs in Orisville, which is less than an hour outside of Albany. Attendees from all 8 dioceses in New York participated in worship, adoration, and a miles-long procession with the Blessed Sacrament. The body of Christ, along with the Congress, is at the center of a national campaign designed by the U.S. bishops to bring Catholics closer to Jesus' real presence in the Eucharist. The Diocese of Brooklyn is planning to hold its own revival in the spring. To stay up to date on that event and to read the full report on New York's Eucharistic Congress, just go to thetablet.org or pick up the newspaper at your parish this weekend. This Sunday marked World Mission Sunday for Catholics around the globe, and the youngest Catholics of the Diocese of Brooklyn have been doing their part to keep the mission alive. Schools throughout Brooklyn and Queens have been raising money to help children in mission areas. The school that raised the most in Brooklyn was St. Bernadette Catholic Academy in Dyker Heights, and in Queens it was St. Sebastian Catholic Academy in Woodside. The money went to the Missionary Childhood Association, which each year supports more than 2 million children. And finally tonight, he was a Brooklyn longshoreman who stood up to the mob, but that fight sent him to the grave. Now, nearly a century later, Pete Panto's final resting place finally says his name. Currents News' Katie Vasquez has his story.
One by one, people left red carnations at the new headstone of Pietro Pete Panto at St. Charles and Resurrection Cemeteries on Long Island.
We're here to commemorate.
The grave, now piled with carnations, was once unmarked until Dr. Joseph Sciorra of the Calandra Institute at Queens College stepped in.
There was no tombstone, and I was just sort of shocked.
Panto worked as a longshoreman in the late 1930s, loading and unloading ships on the docks stretching from the Brooklyn Navy Yard to Red Hook. At the time, their labor union, the International Longshoremen's Association, was controlled by organized crime. Panto denounced that corruption, rallying thousands of workers, but his activism came at a price.
Murdered by the mob. Here is a man who fought against a corrupt union that was not looking out for the workers.
The Italian-American went missing in 1939. When his body was found 2 years later, Panto's family couldn't afford a funeral, so Scotto Funeral Home stepped in to cover expenses. Deacon John Heyer, who runs the home now, said he learned about that day that Panto's body was found through family members.
You would see the words "Dove Panto" or "Where is Panto?" And so eventually when he was found, which was about 2 or 3 years after he initially went missing, it was kind of a sigh of relief.
After discovering his grave nearly 8 decades later, Dr. Sciorra set out to honor the activist by raising money for a headstone through a GoFundMe. Donations poured in from as far as Tacoma, Washington.
People saying, you know, my grandfather, he was a Swedish immigrant, but he worked on the docks, and this is for all the working people.
Now, with the new grave marker, his legacy can continue with the hope that future generations will remember him.
Unfortunately, he paid with his life for that truth, just as we relate to Christ, you know, dying for the truth. And so Pete did that for that community, and these are the stories that I think as Italian Americans we need to continue to be able to tell.
In Farmingdale, Katie Vasquez, Currents News.
Wow, what a story. That is this Currents News Update. I'm Christine Persichetti. Thank you for joining us because we are putting your faith in the news. Hope to see you again next time.